Commander Taehyun Kim stood at the main window of Seoul Aerospace Defense Center. His eyes were fixed on the large screen showing 10 red dots moving toward Earth. The dots had appeared 3 days ago, coming from beyond Pluto's orbit. They moved, too fast and in too perfect a pattern to be anything natural. "Any response to our messages?" Taehyun asked, his voice calm despite the tension in the room. Captain Minho Lee shook his head. "Nothing, sir. We've tried all frequencies and languages. They're ignoring us." The year was 2098. Humans had built small colonies on Mars and Europa. They had made great progress in medicine and computers. Earth's nations had finally united after the water wars of 2076, forming one defense force. Commander Kim had led this force for 8 years now. He never thought his biggest challenge would come from the stars. "Time until they reach our moon defense line?" Taehyun asked. 6 hours, sir," replied Minho, checking his tablet computer. Taehyun nodded and turned to the woman standing quietly behind him. "Dr. Park, what do you think they want?" Dr. Jiwoo Park was the top expert in alien life possibilities. For years, she had studied signals from space and created ways to talk with potential alien life. Now, faced with actual aliens, she looked troubled. "They're not here to talk, Commander," she said. "Look at their formation. It's clearly military, and they've ignored 48 hours of peaceful messages. So they want war," said Taehyun, his face showing no emotion. "It appears so," said Jiwoo. "But why? We've never left our solar system. We couldn't have done anything to make them angry." At that moment, alarms began to sound throughout the center. The main screen flashed with urgent alerts. "They've launched something," shouted Minho. "Hundreds of small objects heading toward our orbital platforms." Taehyun didn't hesitate. "Battle stations, alert all defense forces. Get our ships ready to launch." The room erupted into controlled chaos as officers rushed to their posts. On the main screen, they watched as Earth's orbital defense platforms, large satellites equipped with lasers and missiles, tried to shoot down the incoming objects. Some were successful, but many of the alien weapons got through. Bright flashes lit up the screen as defense platforms exploded one after another. Earth's first line of defense was being destroyed in minutes. "Launch all available ships," ordered Taehyun, "and get me the world president." Within minutes, the face of President Yoona Lee appeared on a side screen. She listened calmly as Taehyun explained the situation. "You have full authority, Commander Kim," she said when he finished. "Defend Earth by any means necessary. I'll address the people and begin emergency procedures." As the screen went dark, Taehyun turned to his team. "This is what we've trained for. Not aliens, perhaps, but defense. Our job remains the same: protect humanity." 3 hours later, Earth had lost half its orbital defenses. The alien ships, now identified as the Vicari by a brief message they had finally sent, were positioning themselves around the planet. Their message had been simple: "We are the Vicari. Your emotional pollution ends now. Surrender or be cleansed." No one understood what emotional pollution meant, but the intent was clear. The aliens had come to conquer or destroy. In an underground room at the Defense Center, Dr. Jiwoo Park was working frantically with her team, analyzing everything they could learn about the aliens. "Look at these patterns," she said, pointing to a screen showing battle footage. "They fight in perfect formation, too perfect. There's no adaptation, no individual decision-making." Her colleague, Dr. Sunwoo Kang, who had been called in for his expertise in brain patterns, nodded. "It's like they share one mind, or at least they follow orders without question." On another floor, Commander Kim was directing Earth's defense forces. The space battle was not going well. Earth ships were technologically inferior to the alien vessels. But Taehyun had noticed something strange. "Show me Sector 7 again," he told Minho. The screen showed a battle near the moon. A small group of Earth fighters had been cornered by alien ships. The humans, knowing they were doomed, had charged directly at the alien formation instead of retreating. "Watch the alien response," said Taehyun, pointing. Minho saw it too. "They broke formation. Why would they do that? They had the advantage." "Fear," said a voice from the doorway. They turned to see Sergeant Hee Jin Yoon, her uniform dirty and torn. She had just returned from the first ground battle in North America, where alien dropships had landed troops. "Sergeant Yoon," said Taehyun, surprised. "You should be in medical." "No, time, sir," she said, limping into the room. "I saw something you need to know. The aliens, they react to our emotions. When my squad was trapped and some of us panicked, the aliens became stronger, more aggressive. But when we became angry and charged them, they seemed confused. 2 of them actually collapsed when Private Junseo screamed in rage and ran at them." Taehyun and Minho exchanged looks. This matched what they had seen in the space battle. "Get Dr. Park and Dr. Kang up here," ordered Taehyun. By the end of the first day of war, the Vakari had established positions around Earth and had landed troops in 12 major cities. The human defense forces were fighting bravely but losing ground. Civilian casualties were mounting. In the command center, now moved deeper underground for safety, Taehyun's team had made a breakthrough. "They're empaths," said Dr. Park, excitement in her voice despite the dire situation. "They can physically sense emotions. That's what they meant by emotional pollution. They can feel our emotions and it affects them physically." "But why would that make them attack us?" asked Minho. "Because humans are emotional chaos to them," explained Dr. Kang. "Look at these brain scans from the alien captive. Their brains are wired for emotional uniformity. Our emotional variety must be like constant noise or pain to them." "So they came to stop the noise," said Taehyun quietly. "Yes, but this gives us a weapon," said Jiwoo. "Sergeant Yoon's observations prove it. Strong human emotions, especially ones they don't expect, disrupt their functioning." Commander Kim stood up straight, a plan forming in his mind. "Then we need to be unpredictable. Captain Lee, contact all frontline commanders. Tell them to encourage emotional expression in battle. No more standard tactics. I want chaos, confusion, human unpredictability." "That goes against all military training, sir," said Minho, though he was already sending the message. "Exactly," said Taehyun with a grim smile, "and that's why it will work." As the first day of the alien invasion ended, Earth's forces began to change their approach. The Vakari had come expecting an orderly response based on their reconnaissance. Instead, they would face humanity's greatest strength, its emotional complexity. And for the first time since the alien ships appeared, Commander Taehyun Kim felt hope. The Vakari had come for war, but humans would send them home with something they never expected: trauma. 3 months had passed since the Vakari first attacked Earth. The war continued on many fronts. Humans had lost several cities, but they were learning to fight back. The alien advance had slowed. In some places, humans were even pushing the Vakari back. Deep beneath Seoul, in the underground levels of the Aerospace Defense Center, Dr. Jiwoo Park bent over a glass container. Inside, a small piece of Vakari tissue pulsed with a blue light. Dr. Sun Wukang stood beside her, watching the readings on his tablet. "Increase the emotional input," Jiwoo said. Sunwoo adjusted a dial, and the room filled with sounds of human laughter. The alien tissue turned a darker blue and throbbed faster. "Now switch to anger," said Jiwoo. The laughter stopped, replaced by sounds of human shouting. The tissue immediately changed to a bright red color and began to vibrate. "Amazing," said Jiwoo, making notes. "They don't just sense our emotions, they physically react to them. Their whole biology is affected." Commander Taehyun Kim watched from the back of the lab. The past 3 months had aged him. He had dark circles under his eyes and new gray in his hair. But there was also a hardness to him that hadn't been there before. "Can we use this?" he asked simply. Jiwoo looked up, startled. She hadn't noticed him come in. "Yes," she said after a moment. "I think we can. The Vakari have evolved as empaths. They feel emotions like we sense light or sound, but they've developed in a society where emotions are controlled and uniform. Human emotions are wild and changing by comparison. Like going from a quiet room to a rock concert," added Sunwoo. "Exactly," said Jiwoo. "And the effect seems strongest, with unexpected emotional shifts. When emotions change quickly or extremely, it disrupts their neural pathways. Taehyun nodded. That matches what we've seen in battle. Captain Lee, what's the latest from the front lines? Captain Minho Lee stepped forward from where he had been standing by the door. He looked as tired as Taehyun, but had a spark of excitement in his eyes. The new tactics are working, he said. When our soldiers yell or laugh during battle, the Vakari become confused. Units that sing while fighting have been especially effective, and Sergeant Yoon's special squad has the best results of all. Taehyun smiled slightly. After her observations in the first battle, Sergeant Hyejin Yoon had been given command of a test unit. Her squad was trained to rapidly switch emotional states during combat, from calm to rage to joy to fear and back again. Where is Sergeant Yoon now? Asked Taehyun. She just returned from the Tokyo front, said Minho. Her squad drove the Vakari back 10 kilometers with minimal casualties. I want to see her, said Taehyun. And Dr. Park, prepare a full report. We're meeting with the World Defense Council in 2 hours. In a different part of the underground complex, Sergeant Hyejin Yoon was debriefing her squad. The 20 soldiers looked exhausted, but proud. You did well today, she told them. The emotional drills worked exactly as planned. Private Junho, your battle laugh was especially effective. A young soldier with a bandaged arm grinned. Thank you, Sergeant. I never thought my weird laugh would be a weapon. The door opened, and Commander Kim entered with Captain Lee. The soldiers jumped to attention. At ease, said Taehyun. Sergeant Yoon, I need your report. Hyejin nodded and brought up video footage on the main screen. It showed her squad in battle. They moved in a seemingly chaotic pattern, breaking every rule of normal military formation. Some soldiers shouted as they fired their weapons. Others laughed or even sang. One large soldier roared like an animal as he charged a group of Vakari. The aliens' reaction was striking. They moved jerkily as if confused. Several dropped their weapons and clutched at their heads. Others fired wildly, missing their targets. As you can see, Commander, said Hyejin, the emotional warfare tactics are highly effective. The Vakari simply cannot function when faced with rapidly changing human emotions at close range. But there's a cost, added Hyejin, her face growing serious. Maintaining this level of emotional output is exhausting for the soldiers, and the Vakari are adapting. They're keeping their distance when possible, using more long-range weapons. Taehyun nodded thoughtfully. We need to take this to the next level. Dr. Park is working on something that might help. 2 days later, the top military and scientific leaders of Earth gathered in the main conference room. Dr. Ji-woo Park stood at the front presenting her findings. Based on our research, we've developed 2 new weapons in the fight against the Vakari, she said. First, emotional amplifiers. These devices capture and broadcast human emotions. We've tested them on Vakari tissue samples with dramatic results. She showed video of a test. A small device was placed near a contained Vakari prisoner. When activated, the alien immediately fell to the ground, writhing in apparent pain. Many in the room looked uncomfortable. General Woo Jin Choi, head of the Asian Defense Command, raised his hand. Dr. Park, this looks like torture, he said. Ji-woo nodded sadly. In human terms, it would be. The device overwhelms their empathic senses. It would be like blasting our eyes with bright lights and our ears with loud sounds simultaneously. Is there another option? Asked President Yoon-ha Lee, who had joined the meeting virtually. Yes, said Ji-woo. Our second development is more defensive. We've created shielding that can block emotional output. It would allow our soldiers to approach Vakari without being detected empathically. Taehyun, who had been quiet, finally spoke. We're in a war for survival. The Vakari have killed millions of humans. They've made no attempts at peace. They came to eliminate what they call our emotional pollution. We didn't choose this war, but we must win it. He looked around the room. I propose we deploy both technologies, the shields for covert operations and the amplifiers for battlefield use. The room was silent for a moment. Then President Lee spoke. I understand your position, Commander Kim, but we must maintain our humanity even in war. The emotional amplifiers may be used, but only at minimum effective settings. We will not torture an enemy, even one that came to destroy us. Taehyun nodded. Understood, Madam President. As the meeting ended, Minho approached Taehyun quietly. We captured a Vicari ship yesterday, he said. Mostly intact. Dr. Park wants to examine it. Taehyun's eyes widened slightly. That could be the breakthrough we need. Where is it? Hidden in the Nevada underground base. It's small, a scout ship with only 2 crew members. One died in the capture, the other is alive but unresponsive. Get Dr. Park on a transport immediately, said Taehyun. And Sergeant Yoon too. If anyone can get a response from the alien, it's her. As Minho hurried away, Taehyun looked at the map of Earth on the wall screen. Red areas showed Vicari control, blue showed human territory, and yellow showed contested regions. There was too much red still, but maybe with these new discoveries, they could push back the aliens and reclaim their world. The Vicari had come thinking that human emotions were a weakness. They were learning, painfully, that emotions could also be a powerful weapon. And Earth was just beginning to use that weapon effectively. 6 months had passed since the Vicari invasion began. The war had changed. Humans were no longer just defending. They were fighting back. The Nevada underground base had become the center of Earth's new war effort. Here, in a large hangar deep below the desert, sat the captured Vicari scout ship. Dr. Jiwoo Park had not left the base in weeks. She worked day and night studying the alien vessel and its surviving pilot. Today she was meeting with Commander Taehyung Kim and the newly promoted Major Yejin Yoon. The ship's technology is amazing, Jiwoo said, leading them around the sleek, oval craft. But even more interesting is what we've learned from the pilot. She led them to a special room where they could observe the Vicari through a one-way window. The alien was tall and thin with pale blue skin and 4 arms. It sat motionless in the center of an empty room. We've been working with Jihye-han, said Jiwoo, pointing to a woman in the observation room who was monitoring equipment. She's our top psychologist specializing in emotional regulation. Jihye nodded to the group. We've made significant progress in communicating with the pilot. The Vicari experience emotions very differently than we do. They evolved in highly structured societies where emotional harmony was necessary for survival. So, our emotional chaos is like a weapon to them, said Taehyun. Exactly, said Jihye. But we've also discovered something else. The Vicari can be trained to handle human emotions, but it causes permanent changes to their brain structure. Like a form of brain damage? Asked Heejin with concern. Not exactly, said Jiwoo. More like rewiring. But it's irreversible and makes them unable to rejoin their society. Taehyun's face darkened. So we're not just defeating them, we're changing them forever. Yes, said Jihye quietly. Any Vicari who survives prolonged contact with human emotions becomes an outcast to their own kind. The room fell silent as they considered the implications. We didn't ask for this war, Taehyun finally said. They came to wipe us out because our emotions offended them. We're using the only advantage we have. Yejin stepped closer to the window. Have we learned why? They attacked us in the first place? Jiwoo nodded. Our emotional pollution, as they call it, extends into space. As their ships got closer to our solar system, they began feeling our emotions. They interpreted it as an attack on their mental well-being. So they attacked us because they felt our feelings? Hyejin sounded incredulous. From their perspective, our unchecked emotions are a form of violence, explained Jihye. Their society is built on emotional control and harmony. Well, they're about to experience a lot more human emotions, said Taehyun grimly. Major Yoon, are your special forces ready? Hyejin straightened her back. Yes, Commander. Operation Emotional Strike is ready to launch. 1 week later, Major Hyejin Yoon led the first attack using the new emotional warfare tactics. Her target was a Vicari command center in what had once been Beijing. She had 100 soldiers, all trained in Jihye Han's emotional regulation techniques. Each soldier wore a small device, an emotional amplifier designed by Dr. Park. Remember your training, Hyejin told her troops before they moved out. Control, Your emotions then release them exactly when ordered. The amplifiers will do the rest. The attack began at dawn. The human forces approached silently, their emotional shields activated. The Vakari guards did not sense them coming. When they were in position around the command center, Hyejin gave the order. Shields down, amplifiers on. Release Rage Pattern Alpha. The effect was immediate and devastating. 100 human soldiers projected intense rage, amplified by Dr. Park's devices. The Vakari guards collapsed, clutching their heads. Some began making high-pitched keening sounds. Move in, ordered Hyejin. Switch to calm state until you meet resistance. The soldiers advanced, their emotions now perfectly controlled and projecting unnatural calm. They moved through the outer defenses without firing a shot. The Vakari they encountered were disoriented, unable to fight back effectively. When they reached the main command room, Hyejin gave a new order. Joy burst now. The soldiers switched to intense joy, an emotion the Vakari found particularly disorienting. The alien commanders in the room fell to the ground completely incapacitated. Within an hour, the entire command center was under human control. Hyejin's forces had suffered only 3 minor injuries. It was the most successful operation against the Vakari since the war began. At Seoul Aerospace Defense Center, Commander Taehyun Kim received the news of Hyejin's victory with mixed feelings. Yes, they were winning battles now. But at what cost to both species? He met with Captain Minho Lee to discuss the new developments. Major Yoon's success has been replicated in 15 other operations, Minho reported. The Vakari are retreating from ground engagements. They're relying more on orbital attacks where our emotions can't reach them. That's good news for our ground forces, said Taehyun. But their orbital platforms can still cause massive damage. There's something else, said Minho, looking troubled. Dr. Park has examined more Vakari prisoners. The effects of our emotional warfare are worse than we thought. The neurological damage is permanent and spreads through their collective consciousness. What does that mean? Asked Taehyun. It means that when one Vakari experiences emotional trauma from us, others connected to it feel echoes of that trauma. Their entire military force is being affected, even those who haven't directly faced our emotional weapons. Taehyun sat back in his chair, stunned. We're not just winning battles, we're breaking their entire species. Yes, sir, said Minho quietly. Dr. Park says it's like a psychic plague spreading through their ranks. Many are becoming unable to function in their rigid society. Have we gone too far? Taehyun wondered aloud. Are we becoming monsters to defeat monsters? Before Minho could answer, an alert sounded. A message was coming in from the Vakari fleet. On the main screen appeared an image of a Vakari. Unlike the ones they had fought, this one had darker blue skin with gold markings, signs of high rank. I am High Commander Toral of the Vakari Cleansing Fleet, it said in stilted but clear human language. We request cessation of emotional attacks. We will discuss terms. Taehyun and Minho looked at each other in shock. After 6 months of relentless war, the Vakari were asking for peace talks. I will bring this to the world president immediately, Taehyun replied to the alien. Where and when do you propose we meet? Neutral space. Your moon. 2 Earth days from now, the Vakari said. Then, with what seemed like great difficulty, it added, Please, control your emotions during meeting. As the transmission ended, Taehyun turned to Minho. Contact Dr. Park and Ji Han. We need them for this meeting. And find someone with diplomatic experience. Admiral June Choi just returned from the European front, suggested Minho. She was a diplomat before the war. Taehyun nodded. Get her here immediately. As Minho hurried away, Taehyun stared at the screen where the Vakari's image had been. Humans had found a way to fight back against a technologically superior enemy, but in doing so, they had inflicted a kind of warfare the universe had never seen before. Emotional trauma as a weapon of war. The Vakari had come to eliminate what they saw as humanity's emotional pollution. Instead, they were learning a hard lesson about underestimating humans. Sometimes what seemed like a weakness could become the strongest weapon of all. The meeting place was a dome on the far side of the moon. Humans had built it years ago as a research station, but now it served as neutral ground between two warring species. Commander Taehyun Kim looked out at the stark lunar landscape through the dome's clear walls. Earth hung in the black sky, a blue and white reminder of what they were fighting for. "They're approaching," said Admiral June Choi, who stood beside him. At 52, she was older than most military leaders, with streaks of gray in her black hair. Before the war, she had been Earth's top diplomat to the Mars colonies. A sleek Vakari shuttle landed outside the dome. 3 aliens emerged, moving with the careful grace typical of their species. They wore no protective suits. Their biology allowed them to survive in vacuum for short periods. They entered through the airlock, their movements stiff and formal. The leader was High Commander Toral, easily identified by the gold markings on his blue skin. The other 2 stayed slightly behind him. Dr. Jiwoo Park and Ji-hee Han stood on either side of Taehyun and June, both wearing emotional suppression devices. These new inventions helped control the emotions the Vakari would sense from them. "Welcome," said Admiral Choi, stepping forward. "We appreciate your willingness to talk." Toral made a gesture with his upper right hand, some kind of greeting. "We will discuss terms of ending this conflict," he said in halting human language. "Please sit," said June, indicating chairs arranged around a table. The Vakari remained standing. "Your seating, uncomfortable for us," said Toral. "We will stand." "As you wish," said June smoothly. "May I ask why you requested this meeting now?" Toral was silent for a moment, seemingly struggling with something. Finally, he spoke. "Your emotional weapons cause great damage to our people, not just soldiers. All Vakari connected to those who experience your emotions are affected." "We didn't start this war," said Taehyun, unable to keep quiet. "You attacked us without provocation." "We were provoked," said Toral. "Your emotions pollute space. We felt them light years away, growing stronger as we approached, like pain in our minds." Dr. Park stepped forward. "You mean you can sense human emotions across space, at such distances?" "Yes," said Toral. "Vakari are connected. What one feels, others feel. Your planet broadcasts emotional chaos. It hurts us. We came to stop the pain." Ji-hee Han's eyes widened in understanding. "So you interpreted our emotional output as an attack?" "Yes," said Toral. "An attack on our collective well-being." The humans exchanged glances. What had seemed like unprovoked aggression suddenly made a terrible kind of sense. "We did not know," said Admiral Choi gently. "We had no idea our emotions could be felt by others." One of the other Vakari stepped forward slightly. "Now we suffer worse pain. Your new weapons, they break our connections. Many Vakari can no longer join the collective mind. They are alone." The alien said the last word as if it were the worst fate imaginable. "To be cut off from others is worst punishment for Vakari," explained Toral. "Those affected by your weapons can never return to normal life." Taehyun felt a chill run through him. They had been fighting for survival, but they had also been inflicting a terrible punishment on the Vakari, one that would last long after the war ended. "What do you propose?" asked Admiral Choi. "We will leave your system," said Toral. "Never return. You will stop using emotional weapons and develop shields to contain your emotional output." "We can agree to stop the emotional attacks immediately," said June, "and Dr. Park has already been working on shielding technology." Jiwoo nodded. "We've made progress on containing our emotional emanations, but it will take time to shield an entire planet." "We will provide assistance," said Toral, surprising everyone. "We understand emotional shielding. We'll share knowledge." 2 weeks later, the war officially ended. The Vakari fleet began withdrawing from Earth orbit. On the main view screen in Seoul Aerospace Defense Center, Commander Kim and Captain Minho Lee watched the alien ships depart. "Did we win?" asked Minho quietly. Taehyun sighed. "I don't think either side won. We survived. They learned a hard lesson about human nature. But both species will bear scars from this war. The door opened and Young-Ho Bae entered. He was a civilian historian who had been documenting the war since its beginning. "Commander, Captain," he greeted them. "I've been studying the information the Vakari shared before their departure. Their society is facing a crisis unlike anything in their history." "What kind of crisis?" asked Taehyun. "Their military forces, the ones who experienced our emotional weapons directly, are unable to reintegrate into their society. The neurological changes are too profound. They've set up special colonies for the affected individuals." "How many?" asked Minho. "Nearly 30% of their invasion force," said Young-Ho grimly, "and the effects continue to spread through their communal consciousness. The Vakari as a species may never be the same." Taehyun closed his eyes briefly. "We did what we had to do to survive, but I take no joy in their suffering." "There's something else," added Young-Ho. "Many of the affected Vakari have developed a fascination with human emotions. They're studying us now, trying to understand what they experienced." "Is that good or bad?" asked Minho. "Neither. Just different," said Young-Ho. "They've evolved in a society where emotional harmony was paramount. The idea of emotional freedom, feeling whatever you want, whenever you want, is revolutionary to them. So we may have triggered a cultural revolution in an alien society," said Taehyun. "All because we fought back the only way we could." 1 year after the end of the war, Earth had changed. The emotional containment shield was partially operational, reducing the emotional pollution that leaked into space. Cities destroyed in the conflict were being rebuilt. And humanity had united in a way never seen before. Dr. Jiwoo Park had established the Interspecies Understanding Initiative, working with the Vakari to develop better ways to communicate across their biological differences. The first joint human-Vakari research station orbited Neptune, far enough from Earth that the aliens could work comfortably. Commander Taehyun Kim had retired from military service. Today, he stood at the new memorial in Seoul, a simple stone monument listing the names of those lost in the war. Beside him stood Captain, now Colonel, Minho Lee. "Do you think they'll come back?" asked Minho. "Not to fight," said Taehyun. "They learned that lesson, but to learn from us? Yes, I think some will." "Learn what?" asked Minho. "How to feel without fear," said Taehyun. "The Vakari built their civilization on emotional control. We built ours on emotional freedom. They came to stop what they saw as our emotional chaos. Instead, they discovered that our emotions, our apparent weakness, were actually our greatest strength." As they turned to leave, Taehyun noticed a small blue flower growing at the base of the memorial. It had not been there the day before. Its color was exactly the same shade as Vakari skin. He smiled slightly but said nothing. The aliens had come for war. Humans had sent them home with trauma. But perhaps in time both species would find something more valuable: understanding. In the vast emptiness of space, emotions no longer leaked freely from the blue planet. But inside the emotional containment shield, humans continued to feel every joy and sorrow, every love and fear and hope, with all the intensity that made them human. And far away, on worlds humans had never seen, former Vakari warriors were learning to embrace the emotional chaos they had once feared, finding in it not pollution but possibility.